The Silver War 2016, it's a Formula 1 documentary that I made 9 years ago that tells the championship rivalry of the Mercedes drivers at that time, Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. I made this documentary in 2016, just when the season ended. It was a fantastic documentary and people really love it. Reached millions of views. I made a remastered version because I felt that I improved a lot as a video editor 3 years later in 2019. And recently I was able to create the ultimate version that I named the Silver War F1 2016 Ultimate Edition. In this video, you will understand and you will see the differences between the previous remastered version I made in 2019 with this new one. In the previous versions, the color grading was a bit moved to yellow gray colors. What I made is to change the color palette to blues and green tones. Why? Because it's much more connected to the branding of the documentary and also to the colors of the Mercedes car as you can see in the screen. The logotype that, for example, I have in this t-shirt and the logotype that you can see in the documentary have a laurel crown that is in, let's say, some kind of blue-green colors that is inspired in the color of the title sponsor of Mercedes that at that time, and I think actually is in 2025 still, Petronas, the logotype of Petronas, have this kind of blue-green colors. And as you can see now in the comparison, the Petronas logo, it's much more visible. That makes the Mercedes cars looks much better. How much visible they are, the two Mercedes cars, thanks to increase the silver tones, the green-blue tones. Look at the difference with the original footage. Look at the Rosberg cars, you know, at the left side. And look at the Lewis Hamilton car. It's much more shining on the screen. It's much more spectacular as well. Another important thing about the colors is there are not differences between different shoots. When I was making this documentary, I was taking footage from different sources. I have race highlights, race edits, race onboard cameras. All these, let's say, different cameras have different patterns of color. What I made in this documentary is to make sure that independently of the footage I was using every moment, the colors doesn't change too much between shots. As you can see, for example, in previous versions where some of the sequences were grading a bit more in red, some others were grading a bit more on green. And now, as you can see, the color model, the color grading is super similar between suits. So you have not that kind of disconnection between different scenes. This is my Patreon page, and recently I've created a post that the name is The Secrets Behind the New Look of the Silver War F1 2016 documentary. This is for people that is really interested in to know every single detail of this process that is super interesting, where I explain the changes in the colors I made, comparisons with photos, with graphics. I will place a card here where you can get access to that post on Patreon. For example, the location graphics that are this graphic that appears when a new race starts are similar to the previous version, but a bit more darker. Let's see another new graphic that changed, that is this one. The driver position is much more visible. In the previous versions, it was at the bottom right, and the visibility was terrible. Every time you have to look at the position Hamilton and Rosberg were, you have to move your eyes to the bottom right part of the screen. It's exhausting when you are doing that in a documentary that have a length of more than 90 minutes. What I made in this version is to move the graphic to the middle part of the screen. You see the position much easier. Also, the graphic is much more simple. The name, the photo of the driver, and the position he is actually. Another thing that I really love using these new driver position graphics is that they are really well implemented with the race action. For example, in the moment Lewis Hamilton is speeding for a tires change, you can see how the graphic appears now at the right side, and it's aligned almost with the helmet of Lewis Hamilton. Also, I changed the animation of the graphic when some driver change position. Now the effect on the screen is much more visible. Look at the number 2 of the screen of the driver position of Rosberg. You can see much easier when Nico Rosberg or Lewis Hamilton gain or lose places. These are minor changes but have important impacts in the documentary. For example, in this moment, Rosberg goes wide because he's pushed wide by Hamilton.
Rosberg gets pushed wide by Hamilton, and that's a really poor start.
And now he will start to lose a lot of places. In the previous version, I only made one animation to reflect that Nico Rosberg lose like 6-7 places.
And that's a really poor start for Nico Rosberg.
What I did in this version is to represent every single position Nico Rosberg is losing individually.
Poor start for Nico Rosberg.
It's much more visible, it's much more dramatic even. Team radio graphics, big changes here. In the previous version, when a driver was talking in the team radio, Luis or Nico, the color was in yellow.
You gotta give me more information because of all the stuff going on my steering wheel with the warnings and everything.
Now, when drivers are talking, color is in this kind of blue-green colors that are much more in connection with the colors of the Mercedes cars, with the colors of the graphic.
You gotta give me more information because of all the stuff going on my steering wheel with the warnings and everything. Warnings are real.
And the colors of the race engineers of Lewis and Rosberg still being white color. And the background is darker, so the text is much more readable. And finally, let me show you the driver standing graphics that also have changed. Now the Rosberg face and the Lewis Hamilton face is not in black and white as it was in the previous version. Now it's in color, with a kind of shining at the bottom, with the Petronas colors. In the previous version of the Silver War documentary, the championship standings graphic only was shown in certain races. From now, you will see the driver standings after every single race. This graphic, I have to say that is very similar to the model I used for the last Silver War documentary I made. That was the prequel of this version, the 2015 documentary, Transition to the Silver War. In that way, also I create a much stronger connection between Silver War documentaries. I made 3 versions. This is the first one that I made, the first time I uploaded the documentary in 2016. This is the second one that was uploaded until today in 2019. And this is the last version I've made for this Ultimate Edition. Very similar to the 2019 version, but as you can see, some little changes in the background. The position of Rosberg and Hamilton, it's inverted. It's similar to the 2019 version, but it's much professional right now. In this frame, in the previous version, you cannot see so much the hand of Lewis Hamilton, and now it's visible, because I think in this shot it's more important to see the Lewis Hamilton hand sprinkling champagne. Move on to the Austrian Grand Prix, where both Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton collide in the last lap, as you can see here. In this suit, when the Nico Rosberg front wing is broken, you can see now in this version, in this Ultimate Edition, how the Rosberg's car is at the middle of the screen. In the previous version, the Rosberg's car was at the top of the screen. And in this version, in this new version, it's exactly what it should be, at the center of the screen. These kind of changes, it's impossible to realize while you are watching the documentary because you cannot compare it with the previous version, but increase a lot the cinematic experience of the viewer. The screen ratio have changed. Now you will not see this kind of black bars at the top and at the bottom of my documentaries. For the first time ever, you will see the Silver War 2016 documentary in ultra-wide format in case you have the monitor to watch it. And this is probably one of the best features this new version of the documentary have. In the press conference on Thursday of the last race of the documentary, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the original version and the remastered version have 9 minutes footage of the press conference Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were sharing together as title contenders for the last race, where journalists were asking them a lot of questions.
I've got a question for both of you. It's been a close-fought season with the advantage swinging in both of your favours. What would each of you say was your best and worst drive of the year, please?
This file that contains the footage of that press conference in Abu Dhabi it's corrupted. But I found another clip really interesting with that same press conference. The quality image is better, and there are interesting shots from the lateral side where you can see Lewis and Nico Rosberg together, their faces.
Shifted in the sense, he's obviously very, very solely focused in terms of, looking after himself. So, and obviously we parted ways when we were younger too. He went BMW, I went Renault, and but then we got to Formula One.
By the way, if you are really interested in to know the process I went through to edit the documentary, some days ago I made a live stream here on this YouTube channel that I will place a card at some point of the video where I was editing the last race of the documentary in Abu Dhabi with all of you in a live stream that is really interesting. On my website, that is danifloss.com. There is the only place where you can watch this original Ultimate Edition. Here I will place the link where you can go to watch the documentary. And before to go there, don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel where I will share more news about my videos. So thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.